And done. Good luck. I can't believe that bow-tying wearing douche already finished his PhD thesis. It's probably amazing too, unlike my piece of crap. Who am I kidding? There's no way that I can finish this thesis. I should have just gone to Eastern Europe and done medicine like my dad said. Clearly the university made a mistake giving me a spot here. Why does my stomach feel funny? I probably shouldn't have stayed up all night. I probably shouldn't have ate that entire tub of Ben & Jerry's watching Bridgerton. I probably shouldn't have watched Bridgerton. This thesis sucks. What am I even saying? Is it who is, whom, whose? I'm definitely gonna fail my Viva. And if I pass, it's probably because my supervisor knows my examiners. There's no way this work is meaningful. I'm not cut out to be in academia. Why the fuck am I wearing a bow tie? Who am I trying to be, the Duke of Hastings? Shit. I guess I have no choice. I'm just gonna keep writing. Whatever. What do all of these people have in common? You probably guessed it from the title of this video. At some point, every single one of them felt like an imposter. Except this guy, he's actually a real imposter.
And you see, he looks like a backup dancer for a singer we cannot see or hear. Almost immediately, viewers who actually do know sign language started calling him out online.
How long did this guy think that was gonna last? Pretending to be a sign language interpreter at Nelson Mandela's memorial? It's pretty messed up. Each of these individuals, other than that guy, have all suffered at some point in their life from imposter syndrome. This is the feeling that you're a fraud, that everything you've achieved in your life is due to luck, and that people are overestimating your skills and your abilities. In this video, we're going to talk about the origins of the imposter syndrome, 5 different ways that the imposter syndrome can appear, and how you might be able to tackle it. Hey guys, it's Ahmed and welcome back to my channel where I sift through the noise to bring you content that affects our day-to-day lives. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel so you can stay up to date on the content that I push out. Today I want to talk about imposter syndrome because it's been a big source of pain and anxiety in my life. As you may recall from one of my earlier videos, things in high school didn't really go as planned. So I graduated but didn't really get into university. That really affected the way that I viewed myself and my abilities. Eventually, when I did well at university and I did well in exams, I always felt like it was because of luck, or that the task was easy, and I didn't really feel confident in my own abilities. As a matter of fact, every time I do well on the exam, I'd always think to myself, right, I'm just one more exam from failing, or I'm one more exam from being found out, that actually I don't really know as much as people think I do. But that feeling didn't really disappear. Even when I got into Cambridge for my MPhil and my PhD, I continued to feel like an imposter, that somehow I had tricked my way into the system, and that eventually I was going to be found out. Imposter syndrome, sometimes called imposter phenomenon or imposter experience, was first formalized as a concept in 1978 by Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. They wrote a paper called The Imposter Phenomenon in High Achieving Women. The paper summarized a study looking at 150 women who were considered high achieving. They were categorized as this by their colleagues who had high opinions of them, as well as their examination results and their degrees. The study found that a large number of these women felt like their achievements were due to luck, and that people were simply overstating their abilities. However, since that study, it was found that this phenomenon doesn't just exist in women. It exists in men and mostly people of underrepresented groups. In fact, studies show that more than 70% of people, at least once in their life, have experienced imposter syndrome. Unsurprisingly, imposter syndrome is a lot more common in students, people who work alone, people who are from underrepresented groups in the workplace like women or ethnic minorities, and people whose jobs have information that's constantly changing, so people who work in high tech and fields like that. It's not always so obvious when you're having an imposter moment. I, for one, am really bad at knowing when I'm going through one. In fact, recently I was asked to do a presentation, and while I was working on it, I started to feel anxious and stressed. I was like, why did I agree to do this presentation? Who wants to hear about AI and fashion? No one cares. But then I realized, maybe there's another reason why I'm going through this moment. Funnily enough, I actually didn't even realize at that time that I was having an imposter moment. It's only now that I retrospectively analyze my emotions and my behaviors that I was like, maybe that was an imposter moment. Generally speaking, you can divide the imposter syndrome into 5 different types. You've got the perfectionist, you've got the superhero, the expert, the natural genius, and the soloist. I'm going to take you through each one step by step to help you categorize which type of imposter personality you might be. And it's possible that you fit into multiple ones, but the main objective here is to help you be aware of what kind of imposter syndrome personality you might have so you can then address it. The first one is the perfectionist, and I feel like this is the one that I most relate to. And if you haven't already seen my video about perfectionism and how to find it, you should see the link somewhere on the screen now, but I've also included it in the description below. Perfectionists often feel like their work isn't good enough, and they tend to focus more on their mistakes and their flaws more than they focus on their strengths, and that ultimately leads to them feeling anxious and feeling stressed. Because perfectionists tend to focus on their mistakes and their flaws, they tend to feel like they're just not good enough, and that somehow they're imposters, and everyone else around them is much better than them. Now, I'm not criticizing anyone else, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, but there is a stereotype about brown people where a kid will come home from school and say, "Hey dad, I got 99% of my exam," and the dad will be like, "Where's the other 1%? That kid is definitely gonna have imposter syndrome growing up. The superhero trait is something that I noticed a lot here in Cambridge, especially when I started my MPhil many years ago. Whenever I was at a party, or they're called bops here, at around 12 o'clock, I'd notice a bunch of students just break away. I was like, oh, where are they going? Is it like some other after party that I'm missing out on? So I decided to tag along, and I somehow ended up at the library. For some reason, it seemed to be a thing. People were studying all the time. That was something that I was not used to. I would study during the day when I had class or when I had breaks in between. You would very rarely find me in the library, especially at the beginning of term. But what I did notice was a lot of people had this superhero mentality. They would put in hours and hours of work. But then things got really meta, right? Because all these people were going to the library, and me being a perfectionist was focusing on my flaws and mistakes. And I was like, why am I not going to the library? So I started going and didn't really have anything to do. So I kind of just browsed looking for chopping boards. No, I didn't really do that, but I ended up just kind of sitting around watching YouTube videos, pretending to be busy. And it was always so hot there. I don't know why. Everyone was like sweating. Anyway, I was like, what the f am I doing here? I need to get out of here. Long story short, I ended up never going to the library again. The third one is the expert. If there was another one in addition to the perfectionist one that I feel like I relate to, it's the expert. Not because I think I'm an expert, but because when you're doing a PhD, you're really focused on one topic. So this is what a typical imposter moment looks like for me, which falls into the expert category. So I'll be reading a paper and I'll come across a word that I don't understand. Let's say interference theory, something to do with memory. So then I'll Wikipedia interference theory and I'll start reading about it. And then after like 5 hours of reading about it, I don't understand really what it means. So I decide to watch a YouTube video. It mentions classical music, and then I start listening to classical music, and before you know it, I'm watching Bridgerton on Netflix. So the expert often wants to know everything, and whenever they don't know something, they feel inadequate. One of the most famous examples of this is Albert Einstein, who often felt like he wasn't good enough and that his work didn't deserve as much attention as it got. Number 4 is the natural genius. Natural genius is somebody who sets very lofty goals for themselves or very ambitious targets, and when they don't meet them on the first try, they feel like they're failures. This is very common amongst kids who have had a lot of success in their early years, where they've done well in school, gone to a good university, and then when they aim very high for things like jobs or starting a business and it doesn't go as well as they hoped, they punish themselves. And because they're so used to succeeding at their first time at everything, when they eventually come across something that they haven't been able to succeed at the first time, they start questioning themselves and they feel like imposters. Typically, these kinds of people then never actually go and try to pursue these things again because they're so used to succeeding that when they don't succeed on the first try, they're like, maybe I just shouldn't do that. The last one is the soloist. These individuals tend not to ask for help, and they see it as a sign of weakness. Their self-worth often stems from their productivity, and they're a little bit individualistic. This is something that's very common in school, primarily because we're constantly being graded. Kids are always being measured against each other, and asking for help or raising your hand to ask a question makes people feel uncomfortable and makes them feel like they're imposters. Being a soloist can be very problematic because on the one hand, while they feel like asking for help is a weakness, on the other hand, they also might feel like their skills have never really been validated because they've never worked in a group and they can't really compare themselves with each other. When they come across something that they don't understand because they have no one else in their group to say, hey, do you understand this or do you not understand this? They can't really measure where they are, and as a result feel like they're incompetent and inadequate. So what are some of the ways that we can deal with this? Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm not a licensed therapist or professional, so take my advice with a pinch of salt. But these are some of the things that helped me reduce my imposter moments. And I say reduced because you cannot completely eliminate that feeling. it will happen. The goal is to help yourself reduce those feelings and how to come down from those feelings faster. The first thing is pluralistic ignorance. And this is the idea that whenever we're feeling self-doubt or having questions about our competence and our abilities and going through an imposter moment, we think we're the only ones. But the reality is, and statistics show, that a lot of people are going through this. So how do we address that? Well, the first thing we have to do is actually talk about it. We have to talk about the fact that we're feeling this way, that we're feeling like we're imposters, that we're feeling incompetent, that we're feeling like we're not good enough. And it's only then that we can connect with other people who are very likely feeling the same way. So when we share that information amongst each other, we realize we're not the only ones feeling it. And that ultimately helps us feel better too. The second thing that really helps me is a little bit counterintuitive, but it's helping others. Whenever I feel like I don't understand coding or I don't really get this concept in machine learning, I go and find a peer who might feel the similar way. And together, when we both realize we have different strengths and weaknesses, but we also have gaps in our knowledge, we address those gaps in our knowledge together, and it really helps address the imposter syndrome. Third thing is you have to stop comparing. And this is the thing that I feel like really happens when you're younger, where you're constantly being compared to your peers, and it can be really problematic. I started doing this YouTube channel and I have like no views and no subscribers, but I can't compare to myself to people who have like 6 million followers. That will only result in me feeling like an imposter, me feeling like, why am I even doing this? What I ultimately do is that the only person I compare myself to is myself, looking at have I improved, have I made gains, and that's ultimately what matters. And that helps me deal with the imposter syndrome. The fourth thing is something that I feel like is really important, and it's using social media intentionally. When I set up my first startup, I was very obsessed with reading about how other people had done it. And I think largely that's a very positive thing. You should learn from other people's experiences. But what I also did is I started watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of books about certain types of CEOs and what people who are successful and productive do. And ultimately that made me feel a little bit inadequate. You would hear about these people who would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go for a run, make breakfast for the entire family, take their dog for a walk, check all their emails, manage to start a company, read an entire book, and then start their day. Those people aren't productive, they're fucking psycho. What happens on social media is that they'll show this one glimpse of this individual in like a snapshot. I mean, probably these guys slept for 3 days straight after doing this, but that's not what they show, right? They show that this dude is incredibly productive, incredibly amazing, and it makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel like an imposter. And any success that you get, you think it's luck, because in reality, you need to look like that. You need to do that to be successful. So it's really important to use social media intentionally, not get influenced by that sort of stuff. The last thing I want to say is that while imposter syndrome isn't necessarily a real syndrome, it is a real feeling, and it exists, and a lot of people go through it, and more people should talk about it. Let me know what works for you guys in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time.